One night, they mocked her for her clothes. The next, their entire world collapsed when they learned who she really was. Manhattan shimmered like a crown of glass and gold that evening. The lights of Midtown bounced across the steel and marble skyline, and every luxury car that slid past the sidewalk seemed to whisper the same message: look expensive or be invisible. Elena Carter, 32 years old, jeans slightly faded, white t-shirt perfectly plain, and hair tied into a modest ponytail, was very much invisible in the eyes of New York's elite. She didn't mind. But tonight wasn't about her anyway. On her left arm, clinging gently but excitedly, walked Mrs. Mei Ling Chen, her 78-year-old neighbor who had practically raised her after her parents died. For decades, Mrs. Chen had dreamed of eating at a high-end Manhattan restaurant, the kind she'd only ever seen in magazines or through frosted glass doors while riding the bus. Tonight, Elena had come to make that dream real. They stepped inside the Golden Orchid, a 3-Michelin-star gem on West 57th Street, a place known equally for its cuisine and its ego. A maitre d' with icy blue eyes and a too-perfect tuxedo stood at the podium. Vincent Beaumont, the kind of man who believed he could measure someone's worth with a single glance. "Good evening," Elena said, with a warm, hopeful smile. "Reservation for 2, Carter." Vincent's eyes traveled down her outfit like she was a barcode he'd already decided he wouldn't scan. "Miss Carter," he repeated slowly, voice soaked in contempt. "I'm afraid we're fully booked tonight." Elena blinked. Half the restaurant was empty. "I called this morning. Your staff confirmed. Our tasting menu begins at $500 per guest. Perhaps the diner down the block would be more suitable." Behind him, 2 hostesses traded amused glances. A couple near the bar snickered. Elena's cheeks warmed. Then Mrs. Chen stepped forward, tiny, elegant, in her best cardigan, hair silver and neatly brushed. "Oh, Elena, it's even more beautiful than I imagined," she whispered, eyes shining. Vincent's expression curdled. "Madam, we cannot accommodate you this evening. Our wait list is 6 months long." The light in Mrs. Chen's face dimmed. Elena felt something inside her snap, quietly, but sharply enough that she tasted metal. She asked, steady but furious inside, "What exactly makes you so certain we don't belong here?" Vincent gave a small, disdainful laugh. "Look around you. This is not a place for people like you." The room froze. A waiter stopped mid-step. A sommelier pretended to adjust a bottle so he could listen. Several patrons turned to stare openly. Mrs. Chen squeezed Elena's arm, whispering tremulously, "It's okay, dear, let's go." But Elena inhaled deeply and forced herself to speak without shaking. "I understand. Your standards are very clear." She guided Mrs. Chen outside, past the chandeliers, the stairs, the smirks, past the people who thought money made them better. What they didn't know, what none of them could have imagined, was that they had just insulted the one woman in New York who could destroy their reputation in a single night. And she would.
Elena's Upper West Side apartment wasn't luxurious. The hallways smelled faintly of old varnish and someone's leftover takeout. But it was home. It was hers. And unlike the Golden Orchid, it welcomed her without judgment. She booted up her laptop and opened a blank document. Most people in Manhattan didn't know her name. That was intentional. Because Elena Carter wasn't just a journalist. She was the anonymous food critic for the New York Sentinel, the most influential newspaper on the East Coast, a critic whose reviews could build a restaurant overnight or burn it to the ground. Restaurant owners feared her, chefs prayed she wouldn't come during their weaker nights, and maitre d's like Vincent? They were terrified of ghosts like her, because she could be anyone. Elena cracked her knuckles. She usually wrote with politeness and restraint, but tonight's humiliation still pulsed beneath her skin like fire. She typed, "Hospitality is the soul of fine dining. What I witnessed at the Golden Orchid was not hospitality, but cruelty draped in chandeliers." She stopped, her breath steadying, then continued. "Luxury means nothing when kindness is absent." Before she could finish the piece, her phone buzzed. Editor. Text. "Dubois expecting special coverage. How was the experience? Good enough for page 1? Elena smirked. Cold, sharp, dangerous. "You'll have your answer tomorrow." She hit send, and she kept typing. Not a rant, not a venge. The truth.
The next night, Manhattan was alive with a crisp breeze and the glow of yellow cabs buzzing through the streets. The Golden Orchid was busier now, a Friday evening rush, with sleek suits and sparkling gowns flowing through the revolving doors like a river of privilege. The restaurant staff buzzed with anticipation. Chef Dubois had sent out strict instructions. Be perfect. The sentinel might be watching. They had no idea how right he was. A sleek black limousine rolled to a stop at the entrance. The valet straightened instantly. Hostesses fixed their hair. Patrons peeked through the window. The chauffeur opened the door. A foot in a black stiletto stepped out. Then the hem of a black evening gown. Then the woman they had chased out the night before. Except now, she looked like Manhattan royalty. Elena Carter. Her hair was swept into an elegant low chignon. Her diamond earrings sparkled. Her posture radiated power. She crossed the sidewalk like she owned it. Vincent nearly tripped over himself to greet her. "Good evening, miss," he said, bowing slightly. "Welcome to the Golden Orchid. Vincent Beaumont, maitre d'. It would be an honor to seat you." Elena's eyes, cool and unreadable, met his. "Elena Carter," she said. He blinked. The name stung him like a wasp. He knew that name. Every maitre d' in Manhattan knew that name. But it didn't connect, not yet, to the woman in jeans he'd humiliated the night before. Then Elena delivered the blow. "Last night," she said clearly, "you refused to seat me and my elderly companion." Gasps rippled across the lobby. Staff froze. Chef Dubois appeared at the kitchen door, alarmed. Vincent blanched. I apologize, miss. There must have been." "No misunderstanding," Elena said. "Your intentions were very clear." She turned to face everyone watching. "And tonight, I am here to determine whether this restaurant deserves redemption or a public reckoning." A murmur swept the room. Someone whispered, "Is she really? She looks like, oh God, the Sentinel critic?" Chef Dubois stepped forward nervously. "Miss Carter, may we speak privately?" "No," she said. "Everyone deserves to hear this."
The restaurant was silent. No clinking glasses, no murmuring conversations, nothing but the hum of the city outside. Elena lifted her chin, her voice firm. "Last night, this man, your maitre d', mocked and rejected a 78-year-old woman who dreamed of dining here her entire life. He humiliated her based solely on her clothing." She gestured toward the entrance, and through the revolving door walked Mrs. Chen. Tonight, she wore her best navy blue dress again, the same one Vincent mocked. But her posture was straighter, her eyes warmer, because tonight she was not alone. Dozens of guests turned to look at her. Shame washed over Vincent's face. Chef Dubois stepped back, mortified. Elena continued. Hospitality is not the practice of worshipping wealth. Hospitality is dignity, fairness, humanity. Vincent swallowed. If there was offense, Miss Carter, perhaps we could offer— Oh, now you offer kindness because you finally know who I am. Her gaze sharpened. Let me tell you a secret, Mr. Beaumont. You never know who you're talking to, and you never know whose heart you are breaking. Her eyes locked on his. Tomorrow morning you will report to the Community Hope Center. You will volunteer there, and you will learn the value of people you so easily dismissed. Vincent looked like he might collapse. Elena turned to Chef Dubois. I will return in 1 month, not as a critic, but as a customer. And the service we receive will determine whether I highlight your cuisine or your character. She took Mrs. Chen's hand. We're leaving. The restaurant watched in silence as the two women walked out, the same door they had once been shoved toward. And for the first time in its history, the Golden Orchid felt shame.
6 weeks later, Manhattan was beginning to thaw into early spring. And the Golden Orchid had changed. The chandeliers were the same. The white tablecloths were still crisp. The wine list still obscene. But the energy was different. Waiters greeted guests warmly. No glances at outfits, no whispered judgments. Because Elena's words had reached deeper than humiliation, they had become a blueprint for reinvention. Vincent Beaumont had spent every morning volunteering at Community Hope Center. He had served meals, cleaned tables, talked with people he once would have ignored. And it changed him, humbled him. When Elena and Mrs. Chen stepped through the door again, Vincent's posture softened. Miss Carter, Mrs. Chen, welcome back, he said with sincerity that surprised even him. It is a privilege to have you. They were seated at the best table in the house, overlooking Central Park through floor-to-ceiling glass. Mrs. Chen's hands trembled slightly as she touched the linen napkin. This is so beautiful, she whispered. Because you are beautiful. Throughout the night, Elena watched the staff interact with every guest, wealthy, casual, young, old, all treated with the same respect. Even Chef Dubois approached personally. Miss Carter, thank you, he said quietly, for teaching us what we forgot. That fine dining is not about keeping people out, but about inviting them into something wonderful. When the meal ended, Elena left something on the table, more impactful than any tip, a handwritten note. True luxury is not measured by price or exclusivity. True luxury is making every person who walks through your door feel they belong to something beautiful. Her official review was published the next morning, a glowing tribute to reinvention, to humility, to grace. It praised not only the cuisine, but the courage to change. It ended with one line the entire city of New York would remember. Kindness is the most expensive thing in New York, and the rarest luxury of all. Vincent read it at his podium, tears silently falling. He finally understood. His job wasn't managing tables. It was guarding the dignity of every human being who crossed the door. And thanks to a woman in jeans and a 78-year-old dreamer, the Golden Orchid had found its heart again.